On this video, I would like to continue basically what we have started, and that is Hebrew lessons in the book of Genesis, chapter 1. Presently, we are on Genesis chapter 1, verse 2, and this is really lesson 2. So I'm reading the Hebrew, and then I'm going to give a brief summary of vocabulary, and then a brief grammatical summary. V'ha'aretz hayata tohu vavohu, v'choshek al penei tehom, v'ruach Elohim melechefet al penei hamayim. The earth was formless and empty, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. The vocabulary here, we start with haya, the verb to be. Tohu is formless. Bohu means emptiness. Choshek is a noun meaning darkness. These are all nouns so far. Al is a preposition upon. Panayim is a dual form, a noun meaning face. Tahom is a noun meaning deep. Ruach, again, a noun, spirit. Richef is a verb, and it occurs in the PL stem here. It means, I believe, at least one interpretation, to hover. And then mayim, the noun meaning waters. As we look at the grammar, it begins, V'ha'aretz hayata tohu vavohu. V'hayata, notice we have the vav here, the conjunction, but the noun is first. Normally in Hebrew, it is a verb-noun pattern. Here we have a noun-verb pattern. And so the noun, ha'aretz, is set forth for emphasis here. It's sort of like he is saying, now the earth was. Notice again, in ha'aretz, we have the definite article ha, followed by the compensatory lengthening in the vowel underneath, from a patha to a comet. That is because the aleph could not take a doggy's forte. Remember, the article would have been hal aretz, and the aleph could not take the lamed, so it elided or dropped out, and we have compensatory lengthening under the hay then. Hayata is a verb. It is the G stem, the basic stem. It is what we call a cow, and is a third feminine singular. The verb is haya, meaning to be. We have here historically what we call a final yod form. Historically, it was hayai. However, the lamed yod form became a lamed hey, and in the final position, since we are in the final position, the yod changing to a hey, we call it a lamed hey verb, because remember, we're working with pa'al, pei, ayin, lamed, and so it's in that final section of grammar. In other words, pei is the first consonant, ayin would be the second, lamed would be the third, or the third movement of a verb. So we call it a lamed hey verb. And with the ha ending, we're looking at a feminine singular. a third feminine singular. So the earth was tohu vavohu. Notice the alliteration here, the literary assonance, tohu vavohu. You can almost hear the emptiness when you read it. And tohu means formless, and bohu means emptiness. So notice here, under the vav, then we have a comets, tohu vavohu. The vav here is a conjunction, and we translate it, now the earth was formless and empty, amorphous, without form, and completely empty. V'choshek al panei tahom. In the next phrase, excuse me, v'choshek means darkness. And darkness, it's a noun. We must add the verb to be between the noun here in the following phrase. So darkness was al panei tahom, upon the face of the deep. Al is the preposition. Panei is from the noun panayim, a dual form, and it is in construct here with panei tahom, the face of the deep. And in construct, you have two nouns back to back, and they are called nouns in construct. They stand in relationship to each other. When that occurs, the first noun will change the vowel pointing. So al panayim tahom becomes al panei tahom, where the shava followed by the seriyod. The seriyod, by the way, in plural nouns that stand in the first position of a construct development is common. So in construct, we would render it masculine plural. It's sort of like divrei. The same can be seen. If we're using another illustration, would be melech, devarim becoming divrei, or melech becoming malachim and becoming malchei with the tzeriyot. This is what we find here. And darkness then was upon the face of the deep. And then Veruach Elohim merachefet al panei hamayim. Veruach, notice we have the vav here, which is your conjunction. And ruach means spirit. So the spirit of God. Here we have two nouns in construct again. Ruach in construct with Elohim. So the spirit of God, merachefet. Merachefet comes from the root rachav. In Hebrew, most verbs have three radicals or three consonants. Some have two. They're called biradical verbs. So here the mem, is a prefix, and the final tav at the ending is a suffix. This is what we then call the D stem, meaning a stem that is used to show doubling, normally in the second root consonant. So this stem then has the idea of intensification. From rachaf, merachefet is a participle. It's a D participle, feminine singular, from rachaf. The reason for this is that often in Hebrew, the verbal system, as we have said, is built on pei ayin lamed, that root meaning to do. So here, as we look at the Ruach Elohim merachefet, we have a resh in the pei position, a chet in the ayin position, and a resh in the first position, the pei, a chet in the second position, and the pei in the final position. And by the way, the verb that we work on often to do grammar analysis is pa'al. At least many grammarians use that. Some just say one in instead of pei noon, or final hay, or something like that, or instead of lamed hay. However, there's different ways we can nomenclatures used. But the whole verbal system then includes 7 basic stems. And in this grammatical presentation, the PL stem is seen here. As we said, the mem gives it away as a participle in this prefix position. The root is rachaf, and the PL participle, like the imperfect of the PL, you have a shavah followed by a patha. Normally the chet here would be doubled, but since the chet is guttural, you cannot double it. So instead of doubling it, we have merachefet. It has what we call virtual doubling. So here, merachefet, notice also has 2 sigols. The 2 sigols followed by the tav shows that we're looking at a feminine participle. It is called a double segulate construction that occurs in feminine participles. So it goes with ruach, which is feminine. So again, vichaf means to do something intensely. It was interesting. The same root is used in Deuteronomy 32 of an eagle stirring up its nest. Then she hovers, richef, intensely over her young to nudge them out of the nest, to teach them to fly, and normally flies under them to help them in this process. But she is hovering over them to get them out. That's the same root that's used here in the Torah. And then al panei mayim, upon the face of the waters. Al is the preposition, and again we have 2 nouns in construct. Panayim becoming panei amayim. So basically we would translate this: and the earth was formless and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the water. Some want to translate this soaring over the face of the waters, which is possible from Rachaf. Those that take that interpretation would appeal to an Ugaritic parallel verb. However, I guess I don't mind seeing it, the idea of hovering, in light of Deuteronomy 32, the text we just looked at, where we have an eagle hovering over its young. So in light of that, what do we learn? 3 conditions existed. The earth was formless and empty. Darkness was covering the face of the world's ocean, as it were, and God's Spirit was hovering over the face of the waters, getting ready to bring maturity, just like getting the birds out so that they can fly, be mature, getting ready to bring a creative act upon this situation, seems to be my reflection on what the text is seeking to say. So I'm going to stop there. I'm trying to keep these fairly short, and we'll continue working through lessons for anyone that's wanting to read and begin to look at some of the verbal developments. I have a grammar that's been, I think it's out on Google Books, a Christological Hebrew grammar, where we go through the grammar in a PDF form. It's also something that we've done over the years. Thank you. I hope this is helpful.